Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Story Saturday. How are you? How's everybody doing? Catherine, hello. So good to see you. I haven't forgotten about you. Still trying to get more for Sedona. Might do another live or something with that because I feel it in my bones. It needs to happen. I feel it. I feel it. We're going to give it a couple minutes for people to get in the room. If you don't have a piece of paper, a journal, or something like that, you might want that today. Hello, Linda. Welcome, welcome. Most of the chapters so far we've read, learned, right? We've learned, we've read, and then at the end, there's always been almost like this guided meditation format. So I've been reading it as a guided meditation. Today's chapter, it's long. But we do not have a guided meditation at the end because it is filled with a lot of exercises for specific things. And this is a chapter where we really start thinking about ourselves and our connections with the Akashic Records. So if you're just listening along, that's fine. You can certainly just listen along and you can just think about it. Or if you listen to the replay of this, at your own leisure, you can write the things down then if you're not able to now. So yeah, we'll see how long this one is. I was perusing through it earlier and I was like, oh, this is like a 20-some page chapter, but it's broken up so nicely because it is sectioned off for specific things, and then a little exercise, and then this section and a little exercise. So it shouldn't be terribly long, but but we're not going 3 hours like Violet did last night. I was watching Violet and Carly's new monthly thing they're doing, who host Ask Your Guides, and that thing went almost 3 hours last night. I was like, whoa, wow. You were at Violet's reading too? Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right, Linda. I did see you there. I did. I never get to go to Carly's lives because they're at 5:30 in the morning. And those of you who know me know that I am not a morning person. And if I'm up at 5:30, it's because I'm still up from the night before. And I haven't been doing that for quite a few years now. So I didn't know apparently that was her thing. Because after I picked the charms, because I was the first one, then she was like, no more charms. So she must do that a lot. But I was like, oh, I was so intrigued by the charms. I'd never seen that before. Catherine says, I got in after they've been live in an hour and I thought it was late. Yeah. Oh, you had to jump off. Oh, yeah, yeah. I gotcha. Yeah. Oh, it was so much fun. Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well. So I'm looking forward to the next one. And then Violet said she's going to reach out about having me join one of the things she does on Thursday nights, her and Carly, and then Blossom Violet plays music. And they have somebody come in and do like a reading for the room and for that night. So I'm looking forward to that. Yay. All right, everybody, I'm just going to give it like one more minute and then we'll get started reading. We are at chapter 4 this week. So the Ask Your Guides, what a great talk. Yeah, I know. Ask Your Guides was amazing. I was on the Ask Your Guides. So the Ask Your Guides was at the Ask Your Guides. Oh, thank you, Linda. I'm getting emotional again just thinking about it. I was on the Ask Your Guides that Violet 108 hosts on Thursday night for Pride Month. And yeah, it was a pretty powerful night. It was a pretty powerful night with some amazing people there. Besides Violet and Alejandro and Eliyahu joined, but I had not met the other teachers that were on there before. So it was really cool. Very cool listening and connecting and everybody's stories. It's an amazing thing that Violet does, hosting the Ask Your Guides and bringing the teachers together for all kinds of different things. And it's a great way for you all to be able to see teachers you might not know, that you might never in a million years found on here searching somehow, so it's absolutely an amazing resource. So thankful to her that she does that. And everybody really does. The community is not just the user based, right? There are a lot of teachers on here who are also growing a really big community, and looking out for each other and helping each other out and co-creating and collaborating. And Eliyahu and I met last Sunday, and we're going to do something. We don't know exactly what yet. We're in the works, but we're going to do something. So I love it. All right, let's see. Kay, hello everyone. Hello, Melinda. Welcome in, welcome in. All right, we're getting ready to get started. Hi, Jamie. Hi, Mary. Oh, welcome, Mary. So glad you're here. So this is a book that we're reading. We're going to be on chapter 4 today. If you haven't been here before, it's okay. This is not one of those books where you have to read chapter 1 and then chapter 2, then chapter 3. Obviously, if you do, yes, you understand a little bit more, but it's written in enough of a way that you should be able to pick up. If you like, excuse me, if you like what you hear today and you really connect with the book, all the past weeks that I've done have been recorded and they are available to watch them, just like today is also being recorded and will be available for replay. So if you don't follow me, you can give me a follow, or if you click on, I forget where I am now. I was just on as a user last night and I forget where the teacher's little bubble face was. But if you click on my profile, go to my about page, go all the way down to the bottom to my link, you can find more ways to connect with me and access. All right, everybody. So today, I had mentioned this in the beginning, but I'm just going to mention it again before we get reading. At the top left corner. Thank you, Linda. Okay. I was like, I literally was just on last night in that live and I can't remember where it was. So for those of you that have popped in now, I said this chapter is a little different from the ones before. The ones before we had the readings and then a guided meditation at the end. This one does not have a guided meditation at the end. It has more exercises throughout it. So you might want a piece of paper or a journal. If you don't want to do that, that's completely fine. You literally can just sit and listen to it, think about the questions and the things like that when it comes up. And we're going into, Mary, you came at a good time because we're starting with part 2, which is all about you. So this is where we really start looking at us and our connection in the with the Akashic Records, and learning kind of how to look at our lives and things in our lives and connect it with the Akashic Records and past lives and things like that. So I do think this is kind of a nice little quote, so I am going to read it. It's at the part 2, all about you. It says, "You are led through your lifetime by the inner learning creature, the playful spirit being that is your real self. Don't turn away from possible futures before you're certain you don't have anything to learn from them. You're always free to change your mind and choose a different future or a different past." And that was by Richard Bach, who I guess wrote, it's called Illusions. All right. All right, everybody, take a sip of water. And then here we go. Chapter 4, reconnecting the present with the past. Your past is emotionally and energetically connected to your present, whether through childhood in this life or your experience from previous existences. Understanding that connection is key to your personal healing and self-empowerment. As you view and rewrite your records, you can become more conscious of what you need to do now to create the kind of energy that will forge a desirable future destiny. The word karma comes from the Sanskrit meaning action. The Akashic action you take now will yield dramatic results, both in your immediate life and in your far distant future. This energetic and timely connection is well worth investigating. Cause and effect reach from the long ago past through the present and into the future. But the present is the door that leads in both directions, opening up information from the past and providing, excuse me, energetic shifts that lead to the future. Portals of the past. An amazing amount of important information is stored in your personal Akashic records, but you don't have to delve into the records themselves to start uncovering the old sources that are still influencing you today. Simply looking at your present life can reveal countless clues to past life experiences. In fact, this present life investigation is a great way to get the process of record revelation going. As you take a look at your patterns from this life, your energetic action of investigation will open the portals of time and make the records more easily accessible. By recognizing the present life issues that you want to work on, you will set the stage to receive all the past life information you'll need for dramatic changes in those very areas. So how do we find those, right? The present clues to your unknown past. So the following list that I'm gonna read contains some of the most common present indicators of past life influences. An exercise after each section has a series of questions that can reveal which issues are most important to you now. Writing the answers will not only help to create access to the Akashic records, it will also help create a readiness to receive specific past life information that will be valuable in your record exploration. So the first one, we're going to take them each at a time, and then there's a little exercise after each one. So the first one is our personal preferences, inclinations, or aversions, especially aversions, man. You may notice that you are called to a certain time or place. If you have a strong liking for something, whether it be the art, music, language, literature, or architecture of a certain place or era, this indicates a high likelihood that you had an incarnation during that time. And if you have a strong preference for certain types of climate or location, it's also likely that you had one or more lives in those types of locales. Interestingly enough, if you are repulsed by the food of a certain place, or if you dislike the fashions or music of a certain area, this could also indicate difficult or even traumatic past life connections then and there. On the other hand, if you are indifferent to a place or time, totally disinterested in its history, style, music, or cuisine, it's not likely that you spent any meaningful time there. It is the emotional content of your reaction that indicates the depth and the type of your past life experience. Interestingly enough, your present life ancestry can also be a karmic clue, indicating a high potential for you to have had a past life experience in the places where your ancestors lived. All right, so this exercise is location investigation. So if you are going to write down, now is the time to write down. If you're not going to write down, that's fine. You can just listen and just think about the questions if you're somewhere where you can't write. So the first thing we really want to look at is what are the countries of your ancestors, or even the ancestors of your spouse or your close friends. So that's where we're kind of starting. We're looking at those places. Then we're looking at countries that we have visited. If we visited other countries, some people haven't. If you haven't visited other countries, what countries do you really want to visit? Are there any countries that are calling out to you that you just can't get them out of your head? Not just, oh yeah, I just want to go on a beach vacation here, like, oh man, I've always wanted to go to Costa Rica, or I've always wanted to go here. It's those type of places that don't go away, that you just feel this special pull, this special place, something like that. Even if you have had to travel to certain places due to work-related commitments, that could indicate that you worked in those places as well. So we're looking at countries of our ancestors, spouse, friends, countries we may have visited or would like to visit. places even maybe we traveled for work. So that is the first thing. And then the second thing is, what kind of environment and climates really call to you? Do you prefer cool mountain lakes, bustling cities, arid deserts? What kind of climate or environment do you dislike or do you resist as well? Like, I hate snow. I absolutely hate cold weather and I hate snow. So a lot of my incarnations have been in warm weather places because I haven't identified any super traumatic thing at this point for why I wouldn't like the snow or the cold weather. But I feel like it's just because I've had a lot of incarnations in a lot of like Mediterranean climates and things like that. So, all right. And then the final one is, list any notable likes or dislikes concerning such things as like art, music, cuisine, culture, religion, spiritual practice, even clothing style. So think about your likes and think about your dislikes. So if you're making a list, when you do that, after you make your list of likes and dislikes, you're going to look at each list, both the likes and dislikes, and consider what era in history or what place on the planet these preferences or aversions may represent. So I will give everybody a second to do that. It's now I know why this chat, like all the things that happened this week. So I was watching Mediterranean Life this week. I've been watching it for a little bit, but I was watching Mediterranean Life and I realized it's only 2 seasons. It happened right before the pandemic and then they never started it up again, which I was sad about because I love it. And I'm watching it, and as I'm watching it, certain places are pinging to me and I'm like, okay, I know what that means. So I'm like sitting with it, investigating it. And through watching a show on TV and the feelings that I got associated with it when they went to Sicily, I literally just discovered this week that I had a massive cord there that I still needed to cut. That is the reason that I had kept my voice so silent for so long, was afraid to speak up, had the feelings I do about men and power and structures because of the past life that I had had there, where I was a healer and I was cast out and then I was actually tortured and I was killed there. And I've had a lot of incarnations where I have incarnated as someone who is like a healer, has abilities, and I've had a lot of incarnations where I've been silenced. And that's why it took me so long in this life to recognize those and to fully step into my authentic self and to step into my voice and step into my power. And that was a pretty powerful cord cutting thing that happened. So that was nuts, but I needed it because it was the final thing that was kind of keeping me still leaning towards that old, right? I was going and I'm doing all these things still. I'm a teacher on Insight Timer. I'm doing all these things. I'm having all these, you know, codes coming in and not really upgrades, but all these things that are happening, but there had still been something, and that was what it was, and they needed me to be able to address that for my future timeline, to fully stepping in and fully walking as Soraya, the Echo Flame. So it was really interesting. All right, so the second thing that we're going to look at is our professions, our talents, hobbies, and other interests. So your present job or your career could also be a past life indicator. So when you engage in an activity on a daily basis for an extended period of time, there is a high likelihood that you've done something similar in the past. For example, if you're a teacher in this life, you may have been some sort of educator or even a nanny in a past life. Even if you hate your job, this may be a life of repetition for you. And it would be very valuable to investigate the records to find out the purpose of this occupational experience at this time. Hobbies or other things that we like could also be past life clues as well. Like if you like coin collecting now, you may have worked in a bank or even in a mint in a previous life. If you're a history buff, take note of the times and places where your historical interest lies. It's likely that your present passion places you right in the center of the historical events that you are interested in. Your talents are also strong indicators. If you have an aptitude for learning languages, it's possible you traveled the world in a past life. If you like to play a certain instrument or even a certain sport, you will probably find the records of that in your personal history as well. If, however, you have a great deal of difficulty with something, then that may indicate some significant challenges with that activity in the past. So here is hi, Madeline. Welcome in. Welcome in. First time I'm awake at the session with the book. Yay! All right. So we are on page 61, getting ready to read Grinding Experience. So this is an example from one of the clients that she was working with. So one client she was working with had celiac disease, an internal allergy to wheat. And when they investigated her records, they found that as a young man in a past life, she had worked grinding the wheat to make flour and hated every minute of it. The emotional charge of resentment actually attached her to that experience, forging a condition that she resents yet again. So, isn't this so interesting? It is. It's so, so very interesting. And the more that I learn, I did, yes, I got it changed. Um, and it's so interesting because when I was in high school, obviously you have to take languages, and I decided to take French. And I did, I did so at the memorization of it, but then when it came to like conjugating sentences, terrible. Um, and I'm learning Italian right now. I've tried to learn Spanish, which it's not that difficult. I just let it fall off. That was my fault more than anything. But then it's still, I had to work at it, right? And I'm learning Italian now, and I am flying through it. I am absolutely flying through it. And the more that I'm learning about my past life incarnations, I'm like, well, yeah, because I've had several past lives in Italy and Sicily. And it's almost like a remembering. Like sometimes I literally answer in my head and I don't even know what I'm saying yet, because it's that the power of that memory from the past lives that come through. So our exercise that we're doing for this one is so you're gonna like I can't even talk. Like she just said, you're really going to be looking here and making lists either on paper or in your head of your favorite hobbies, talents, preferred activities in this life, any professions that you've engaged in, good or bad, any jobs that you devoted at least 6 months of your life to. Consider the emotional content of these work experiences. That's what you're looking at. Literally every job that I've had in my life has been in some type of helping profession, every single one. I worked in, well, the restaurant business. It's customer service, but I worked in the restaurant business. I worked in the medical field for about 20 years before I went back to school because I was burnt out with that. And then I did social work, and now I'm a licensed mental health therapist. So like every single thing that I've done has been some type of helping profession. I am obsessed with rugby. I love rugby. We do have a Major League Rugby here now. And it's, going, but not as popular as the other sports in this country. But I also have some past lives in England. I was actually a witch there in the 15th century, and I was highly regarded until there was a child a family had brought to me for something, and they ended up passing away. It wasn't my fault, but they blamed me, and the Church of England actually hung me to death. So the strong penance for rugby is still there. I love it. All right. So the next one is, what are some of the activities that you seem to have a strong or easy aptitude for? Or what activities do you find difficult or perhaps even uncomfortable? So looking at that. Madeline, um, I wonder what is there behind that. Literally was just the example that we read earlier. So the person that she was working with had celiac disease, and they discovered that in that person's past life, they were a young man who had worked grinding the wheat to make flour, and they hated it so much that emotional charge of resentment was actually still there in this life, which gave them the gluten intolerance and the celiac disease. So it would be really interesting for you to, when you're trying to access your records and things like that, what lifetimes did you have where there could have been some issue surrounding like wheat farming, something like that. Yeah, absolutely. Like I have been, what's it called? In the past, I've been extremely claustrophobic, and that was from being buried alive in a past life. So there's all these clues for us in this life that we don't think about as clues. We just think about it as, oh, I have, what's it called? Why am I blanking out on the word? For like claustrophobia and things like that. Like, oh, I have this strong aversion to something, right? And we just kind of leave it at that. But no, that strong aversion is there for a reason. So like look into it, right? Or like being obsessed with some type of food that is not your main, culture or your main ethnicity, that's a link. There's all these clues that they give us, and if we're paying attention, then we can kind of explore into what that is. So, and then the final one, which we already mentioned, are there careers or vocations that seem to have called you and you've not yet pursued? Or are there any spiritual practices you may be interested in, spiritual practices you're resistant to? All of these things are likes or dislikes. They all kind of have clues in there for us. Probably, Madeline, absolutely. So, what I would suggest you doing is go back to, was that the last one or two chapters ago, went and do the exercise, which was a guided meditation where you went into your records hall and you met your guide. And that would be what I would focus on during that meditation, would be focusing on what happened in my 30s in a past life that could be causing me to have celiac disease now, and really see if your guide can help you figure that out. And it doesn't necessarily just have to be farming. It could have been cooking. You could have been enslaved and had to, cook for a terrible person who tortured you. I mean, it doesn't always have to be super terrible, but it normally is not something good, right? And you only cooked, foods they grew on the farm, which were very heavily wheat based, and you resented him or her or whoever it was. But let's be real, back then it was probably him, right? If you were a female in that lifetime. Or it could have been like that, like you were a male in that lifetime and you were a farmer or who knows what. But that's where I would go. I have often wondered if phobias are linked to past lives. Very much so, Jamie. I mean, there is a genetic component. Like you can look it up online and do research, and there definitely can be a genetic component to phobias, but that should also not surprise people that that is also another clue, because what happens when generational stuff is we pass stuff down if we haven't dealt with it in that lifetime, right? So to me, it makes sense that there also could be a genetic component to it, because we literally keep passing these generational traumas down and down and down, and it's basically past life incarnations that we just keep going. Like that was my role in this, well, that was one of my roles in this life. I had a lot I'm discovering. I'm just like, I signed up for this and I know I did. But my role in my family was to be the generational curse breaker. And neither me nor my sister are having children. And it's going to stop with us. So, all right. So the next one is exactly what we've already kind of been hinting to. I did see something on genetic phobia, super fascinating. It is. There's so much stuff. They're literally like when you start really getting into all the stuff, you're just like, how did I not figure that out? Or how did I not know that? Because things have really like they try so hard. They try so hard. And a lot of times we just don't pay attention, you know. But they're trying. Like today, I had a whole full circle frickin' moment again outside before the live where I had kind of, like I said, I kind of broken that cord earlier this week, which was a massive cord. It tried to come back the very next day by coming in how I know how to recognize, how I recognized it, because it was very root chakra based. So financial threats, right? Money issues, things like that. And I didn't get pulled into it totally. I recognized what was going on and I was like, okay. I was like, no, like we're not there anymore. So what's going on? This is a clue. Okay. Let's sit, let's talk to guides, let's see what's going on. And it was that cord. That cord didn't want to fully go away yet. And I was like, no, we're not no, we're not keeping you. We're not keeping you. So I just lost my train of thought with that of why I was telling you that and where we were going with that. So hi, welcome to the neurodivergent ADHD brain. So come along on the railroad ride, and sometimes we go off the tracks. Sometimes we circle back, sometimes we don't. But it was important because I was having this moment before the live and did this kind of declaration and invocation because I've been in the integration phase of like, what's my next creative spiral next? And I came up, I'm sitting on my bed, windows right, why can't I point? Windows right there. There's a huge tree out there, and a cardinal came and sat right on the branch and literally looked like it was looking at me. And I'm like, okay, okay. There's your confirmation, right? There's your confirmation. So, like, signs, see, train came back. Signs are all around us. And if we're paying attention, we get it. That cardinals are normally ancestral. And that was my sign. We see you, we hear you, we're proud of you. You're on the right track, right? So, all right. So, our third area is like what we just were talking about. If we have any chronic physical, emotional, financial problems or patterns, so if you have chronic physical problems, arthritis, allergies, anything, it's likely that you'll be able to find its source in your personal records of the past. So medical issues like heart problems, migraines, GI conditions, and even cancer are often found to be linked to some sort of physical trauma in a past life. Even scars, birthmarks, and surgeries in this life can indicate past life accidents or trauma. So here she's got an example here of a client she worked with. So down to the bone. One client of mine had severe arthritis throughout his whole body from a young age. When we read his past life records, we found that he was trampled in a stampede and many of the bones in his body had been broken in that life, some of which had never healed correctly. That information was not only in his records, it was also being held in the energy of his cellular memory. So, ongoing emotional problems like depression, anxiety, neurological disorders, even chemical imbalances can be a part of your personal records as well. So, as well as any addiction, which includes physical and emotional components, would also be included in these type of patterns. Even shared karma can have shared physical sources. Once in a seminar, a woman asked her what would cause many people in her family to have the experience of fibromyalgia in this life. When I viewed her records, I saw that she, along with the other members of her family who were burdened with this condition, were all in a mining accident, a cave in where many died and others were seriously injured. When I identified the mine to have been in Wales in the UK, the woman informed me that she was presently writing a book about a Welsh mining town in the late 1800s. She hadn't been aware of the fibromyalgia source, but she was clearly aware of her deep connection to that life and intuitively driven to write about it. Whew, I just got so much energy with that. So, your predominant emotions also carry record information. If you tend to live with consistent depression, fear, or anxiety, it's entirely possible that you've had one or more past lives where you had plenty of reasons to be depressed, fearful, or anxious. Feeling powerless in this life can be a residual reaction to a lifetime where your power was taken away as well. So, another example, out of service. I once had a client who was exceedingly shy and passive, always allowing others to dictate to her regarding the major and even minor decisions in her life. She recognized this pattern as being unhealthy and as being a source of great unhappiness and restriction for her, and she longed to change. In addition to setting up an action plan listing things she could do in her present life, we focused on this issue while searching the Akashic Records for its source. What we found was a consistent, repeated energy of servitude. In several lives, she was a domestic servant. In another, she was a slave. And in yet another, she was a lowly ranked wife in a harem of dozens of women who lorded their power over her. It was clear that this pattern was being repeated, and this was the life where she was destined to take her power back. So she used the teachings in chapter 6, which is coming up, to rewrite new records of those past lives. She also did affirmations to decode fear and self doubt and to reclaim her power and courage now. In addition, she worked on changing her behaviors and relationships in this life. She took more risks and engendered a more self-actualized and authentically empowered identity and time. She felt more comfortable in her own skin and more powerful in her own choices in life. She felt free. It's literally how, like I was just saying earlier, I've had so many lives where I've been silenced, where I've been a healer, or a witch or a shaman or whatever. So many lives where I was silenced, I was shunned, I was killed, I was murdered, I was tortured. That is why my life has been the way that it has been up until now, but not anymore. Absolutely, love. You sure can. You absolutely 100% can. Um, And that's what tapping into all this stuff is doing, is it's telling you where you're being affected in this life. And it can not only just be yours, it can be the generational trauma that's been passed down and passed down and passed down and passed down. So 100% you can. Um, so financial patterns can also be connected to the past. Even attitudes towards our money that we learn as children can become a part of our records and influence us as adults. Beliefs such as money is evil or life is hard, getting by is even harder can be crippling. While with these assumptions in your records, it can be very difficult to achieve financial success. I also can speak to that one. I had a lot of fear-based doubts around lack for sure that I had to rewrite. Hello, Miriam from London. Welcome. So present poverty can also indicate difficult financial patterns in past lives. So if you've had lifetimes of fear or resentment of those who have money, that energy of resentment may keep you poor today. Or perhaps you've had a life that was filled with wealth and yet you lost it. This is called a reversal of fortune life, which creates deep records of fear and failure. This kind of financial trauma in a past life can record a compelling conclusion that money makes you a target or is easily lost. And though you may have a chronic longing for it in the present, you may also have a subconscious but very, very highly emotional charged intention in this life to stay safe by staying poor. Yeah, right. Absolutely. Fear of going out. Yeah. So lots of things, tap in, go to your Akashic records, go to your guide. What happened to you going out? People, right? People. So you've probably got a lot of past lives with a lot of things being done to you by just people. Or it could be deeper. I don't know. So a teacher on here, Carrie Sewell. I don't know exactly how to pronounce her last name. Carrie Sewell She's from Canada. She has, if you're a premium member, she has an amazing course on these money blocks. Hello, Lauren. Hi, Angela. Welcome, welcome. That I would highly recommend. I've actually done it myself. I didn't do the whole thing, but I only needed like the first three. But it's absolutely amazing. I can't remember what it's called, but Carrie Sewell, Suwall. So if anything in that resonated with you about money issues, poverty issues, things like that, highly recommend her course to rewrite those very limiting money beliefs. And you literally rewrite them. Like the first one, you do a visualization of a room and just money flowing in, flowing out, abundantly in, out, because money has to flow. It can't stay stagnant. And then I think it was pretty much the second lesson on here that you did, where she has you say something, you light a candle, you write your old money beliefs out, and then you totally rewrite the new money beliefs. And that literally is what you're doing, is you're rewriting your Akashic records. Everyone thinks we're just rewriting things or doing rituals or doing whatever. When you're identifying those things and then you're writing new ones, you literally are rewriting your Akashic records. All right, so again, another exercise here, investigating the problem patterns. So if you're writing, now's the time to write. If you're not writing, just think about these. So, and it's just all the things we just talked about. List the physical conditions that you've had to deal with in this life. Include conditions you may have had in childhood, for they could lead to past life information as well. So how have these conditions affected you? How have they led you to any physical restrictions or created any emotional responses? So you also want to consider any patterns that are both emotional and physical, like addictions. Do you engage in any addictive behaviors? What would you like to change in order to gain more control of yourself, geez, your life, more control in your life? But there could be past life causes that you can discover and rewrite to those physical, emotional conditions. So you're going to be thinking about those and what those are. And then you're going to be thinking about your moods. So what are the predominant moods that you tend to live in? Do you have chronic fear, depression, anger, obsessions? How do these emotional patterns impact your daily life? Are there specific people that tend to trigger such an emotional reaction, specific things? This will be a really important consideration when you're looking at your like relationship records too. And then third was the money, right? We're thinking about those financial patterns that keep repeating in our life. Do you have long periods of lack or loss? What choices have you made monetarily that you would like to change? Which have you been unable to change? So that's kind of the things you're looking at. It's funny, I have been all over the place with money in this life. I've literally been super rich, didn't even need to work, comfortable, middle class, dirt poor, poverty level, high poverty level, low middle class. I literally have been the gamut throughout my entire life because I just had this very skewed view of money too. I didn't like money. I thought money was bad, and it isn't money that's bad. It's what certain people do with it, right? It's not the money itself that's bad. It's what certain people are using it for, how they're doing it, and things like that. So I had to rewrite that whole record. So Melissa says, same. I've been all over the place with money in this life as well. When I went through my divorce, I had to borrow from bank account to pay back bank account, feed, borrow from the bank account, start. Yeah, absolutely. And since your parents were so frugal with money in a good way, now that if I have it, I'm afraid to spend it on myself. Yeah, money has to flow. Nothing can stay stagnant. It has to flow. And that was something that I found kind of not challenging really, because I really never, it didn't matter to me. Like if I had money and I only had $10 and somebody asked me for it because they really needed it, if they were like, I can't feed my children and I know it's true, I will give you my last $10. I could care less. But I had to kind of rewrite that. Like growing up with your parents being very frugal, that instills that fear base around you around money and how important it is and that you need it and you have to focus on it and hold it and you can't let it go, right? So it instills that fear in us. So what happened to them in a past life? You know, were they rich and then they lost their money? Or were they not rich? Were they poor and did they struggle all their life in a past life? That into this life they came into it with like, where that's not going to happen again, right? We're not letting that happen again. So, but that's still not necessarily a good, view of money, right? Money has to flow. It has to flow in and out, you know. Um, but yeah, we can get trapped in that for sure. So that is definitely somewhere to sit with, right? Is okay, where is this coming from? Yeah, you're afraid to part with it. Yeah. Absolutely save for the future. Yeah, and it's a healthy balance, right? It's a healthy balance. Of course, we are living in this life. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately, but like unfortunately in this life, you have to have money to live. You have to have money to pay. Whether you own a house, whether you rent a house or an apartment or a condo or trailer, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Some way or another, you need money to live, to pay for the place that you live in, for the car that you drive in, for the clothes on your body, the food you have to eat. We need the money, right? Um, which means we have to get the money, but then we also have to spend the money. So if we have had this fear-based, poverty-based timeline that keeps coming back and coming back and coming back, we want to hoard, right? We do. We want to, whatever we get, we want to hoard. But what we're doing then is we're coming from a fear-based place and we're coming from a lack place. So then what happens? What you're focused on is what you're manifesting. So we're feeling like, oh, I want abundance, right? I want financial abundance. I want financial security, but that's not what we're bringing in. That's not the energy that we're calling in because our solar plexus is tight and we're sitting in a fear-based place, right? We're afraid of change. We're afraid of, well, it's also root-based very much too, but your solar plexus too, because it's kind of stifling any creativity or any ways that you can increase the ability for you to make money, because you're also blocked in your root chakra, which is our basic sense of safety and security and needs provided for and everything like that. So we've got to really redo that, right? We've got to rewrite that record around money so that we can free up our root chakra, we can free up our solar plexus, so we can call in the energy of abundance. We can call in the energy that things are going to flow. Um, and if we have the ability to have money to invest money. Say, I'm going to spend this, I allot this amount of money for spending, I allot this amount of money for investing. Most of us can't do that right now. I know I certainly can't. So, but I don't worry about it anymore. Between Carrie Sewell's course and between working with Devin Kearns, who is a teacher on here as well, between those two lovely souls and myself, right, and doing the work myself, and rewriting those records, it'll come. It's going to come, it's going to go, everything's going to be fine. It'll work out one way or another. And that's basically what happened this week. Is I got a message from my manager or our office manager today that was like, hey, so I figured out what the issue was. We hadn't received a big insurance check and it came through today. So if you look at your numbers, now they're where they should be. Of course it did, right? Of course it did. So all right, so relationship patterns and lessons in relating. Catherine, I'm loving this conversation, but I got to hop off. You're welcome, Catherine. Take care. I will see you again soon. All right, so it's not uncommon for couples, families, and other groups of people to choose to come back to this earthly experience together. Not only do we want to repeat our loving relationships, we also want to work out the difficult issues that we've experienced with some of the people from our past. For this reason, our relationship records hold some of the most important information regarding the evolution of our soul. The case of the lonely postman. A man came to see me about his inability to attract love. When we looked at his past life records, we found He had a life as a Pony Express rider, someone who rode horses to deliver mail to the farthest western reaches of the US. In that life, he had fallen in love, but felt he shouldn't tie down the young lady because he was often gone for months at a time. So he determined that love wouldn't be right, and he wrote that into his records. He brought that conclusion into this life, and interestingly enough, he brought the profession too. He delivered mail again, but this time he stayed close to home. He was able to release those old records and give himself the freedom to fall in love. Soon he met the girl of his dreams. With further research, we found that it was the same girl he had left behind in the past life, and in fact, she even had the same first name. Wow. So, the emotional context of our personal relationships often brings a lot of purpose and personal lessons to our lives. For example, we can become attached to others in a lot of different ways and for a lot of different reasons. Genuine love, of course, is a pure form of attachment, but there are other emotional energies in our relationships that keep us bonded to others in not so healthy or honoring ways, like anger, resentment, rejection, just to name a few. So many of us simply react to the people in our lives, not giving it much conscious thought and not really caring what kind of records we are creating, or not understanding that that's what you're doing. I feel like that's more of it. Yet our relationship records can be some of the most powerful and influential energy sources in our lives. When we're dealing with how we treat others or how we allow others to treat us, it's a prime directive of the soul to bring a clear consciousness to it. And once we become conscious of the patterns we are engaged in, it's our ultimate goal to choose to honor ourselves and to demand it from others, no matter what the relationship may be. Let's look at some of the most common karmic relationships and see what your present life may reveal about your personal records of relating. So, romantic love, spouses, people we're intimate with. Lord, the purpose of a loving partner is support, affection, mutual respect, and communication. If one of the partners is lacking in personal power or self esteem, it may cause over-attachment, codependency, and potential lifetimes of repeated unhappiness. If one of the partners is abusive or hostile in any way, it could cause life after life of repetition or role reversal. When these and other problem patterns exist, it's up to at least one of the partners to recognize the opportunity for change and growth and then to take some sort of action. Many people think that karmic relationships are destined to last a lifetime, but sometimes the lesson is just to learn how to empower yourself and finally let go. Many people assume that an intimate relationship applies a loving relationship, and I feel like we all know that is not necessarily true, right? So, being intimate with someone may be one of the most Having relations with someone may be one of the most intimate energetic exchanges between two people, but it's not to be confused with love. And when one of the partners makes this misrepresentation, when it's not the other's intention, this can lead to extreme feelings of disappointment and rejection, and clearly to lessons of self prioritizing and self valuing. I mean, look at patterns of abuse. You see that all the time, right? It's repeated and normally generations, right? And you're like, how do they not know? How do they not see? And if like this is what it's talking about is one person has to be willing to basically do the work and break the generational curse. Um, and if they're not willing to, then it just keeps getting repeated, right? I mentioned earlier, that was my role in my family. My role in my family was to break our generational trauma. All right, so parents and children, another doozy, right? I feel like this one's another doozy too. So this relationship is one of the most energetically charged and the one that can be filled with the most karmic lessons. Boy, do I know that. The role of the parent is to love, guide, support, empower, and even help to inform the child of their eternal value and spiritual truth. If misinformation or mistreatment is rendered instead, it can create patterns of anger and retribution where the roles are switched and people treat each other meanly lifetime after lifetime. For children growing up in a hurtful environment of abuse, rejection, or dismissal, there are significant cognitive and emotional scars in their Akashic records, causing unhealthy adult patterns that can drive a life forward in a very difficult direction. These records of negative treatment must be healed, with the emotions being ventilated, cognitions being reversed, and with new self-loving patterns being nurtured. In fact, there is often a key life lesson for many people that stems from their parental treatment, even if it's considered generally supportive. Ultimately, it's up to us to choose the beliefs and self-talk that honor our eternal truth and empower us on our personal path. No matter what our parents taught us about ourselves or the world, we are in charge now. That is so important. I'm going to read that again, right? Ultimately, it is up to us to choose the beliefs and self-talk that honor our eternal truth and empower us on our personal path. No matter what our parents taught us about ourselves or the world, we are in charge now. As a mental health therapist, I cannot tell you how many times I say that in sessions daily. Daily. The joke with therapy is you come to therapy to blame your parents for everything, and it's true, but it's not true, right? We're not blaming our parents for everything, but how our parents have played such a pivotal role in who we are now. And a lot of times we have to unlearn a lot of shit. And it doesn't even mean bad, you know? You don't have to have bad, terrible, abusive parents to still have something. Look like Melissa. Melissa's parents weren't being terrible, horrible parents because they were frugal, but look at what that did. That instilled that fear-based, lack-based issue around money, right? You have to get good grades. If you get anything less than an A, you're not good enough. Well, what does that teach kids? I'm not good enough. And my worth is tied to accomplishments and what I do, not just who I am and just existing, right? So it's really deep. It's really deep. So this is an important truth. So when you answer the questions below, take a look at your present life and use the techniques in chapter 6 that she's going to get to look into your past life records to determine what patterns and responses to childhood you may still be carrying with you. Remember, you are likely to project them onto your adult attitudes and relationships. All right, so we got friends, siblings, and coworkers. So when a relationship is healthy, no matter how intimate or superficial it is, certain things are required, right? Including mutual interest, mutual respect, mutual support. At the very least, any relationship deserves civil and hopefully kind treatment between both parties. The key to creating good relationship records and healing any old negative karmic patterns is honest communication, clear boundaries, and honoring self and others. For some people, it may feel risky, especially with family members, to set boundaries or insist on being treated with respect. But if these are not the parameters of your present relationships, it will be recorded in your shared karma, and you'll likely have to come back and do it over again, at least until you make these goals a priority. I can literally confirm that for you all. I literally had to cut my mother off out of my life. I say 5 years, but I don't think it was a full 5 years, but I definitely had to cut my mother out of my life. And when my mother came back into my life, she knew exactly, because I had communicated what my boundaries were, what I would tolerate and what I would not tolerate from behavior towards her. And she didn't do that because she knew if I did, that we would not have any relationship at all. But in doing that with my mother, that then opened me up. I rewrote that record, right? That I will not tolerate this type of treatment. If I'm not going to tolerate it from my own mother, I'm certainly not going to tolerate it from somebody else. And my relationship started changing. So All right, so now isolation or lack of relationships. So, this pattern of loneliness or isolation is often set in past records based in some difficult experience. So, if you've been hurt, abused, or abandoned in a past life, you may choose isolation now to stay safe. So, perhaps you took vows of celibacy or felt that isolation from society would bring you closer to God. Or maybe there's an old fear of intimacy due to some past belief that you could lose power or control. All of these old records need to be erased and rewritten with attitudes of trust and openness to receiving love. Hey, Mel. Matilda says, me for 2 years, and it was the best decision. Same here. Same here. So I can't remember who came in. I believe they were from London and they were talking about the fear of going outside. So I feel like that is where that is coming from. When we isolate ourselves, right? What happened to us in a past life that were we hurt, were we abused, were we abandoned? Why are we choosing to stay inside? We're choosing to stay inside to protect ourselves. So sitting with those records and figuring out exactly um, what happened to you where you felt like you lost your power or control, and rewriting those records. And then last but certainly not least, I feel like the most important relationship, the one with yourself. Oh, see, and then she says this may be listed last, but it's energetically the key to all other relationships in your life. As a result, an important present life investigation is to explore how you treat yourself, what you think about yourself, and how you talk to yourself on a daily basis. These patterns are written in your records from way back and will continue far into the future. So it's extremely important to bring your intention and consciousness to them. In consciously creating a relationship with yourself, you should focus on self honor, respect, compassion, and priority. These approaches are the goal of the soul because they reflect a recognition of your external identity. Such karmic directives also show up in your relationships with others. And if these honoring approaches are at the core of your relationships, they make it easier to develop mutual respect and comfortable expression, as well as the ability to make reasonable requests and set healthy boundaries. One of the main reasons we come here is to share this earthly experience with others in a healthy, happy, and productive way. Relationships or lack of them are a central theme in our ongoing records. And if we want to make this part of our lives fulfilling, it will be important to set the record straight in our relationship with ourselves. All right, so we've got another exercise here. Oh, this is the last one. Okay. All right, so this is where you're gonna sit down and explore exactly what we just talked about, basically. So she's saying, answer the following questions in your record journal. This may raise difficult feelings, but be honest. So for your relationship records are key factors in your happiness and destiny. So the first one that you're going to do is you're going to list some of your emotional reactions to the following relationships in your life. So if you're doing it now, you can do it now. If you're jotting it down to do later, that's fine. So the first one is listing the emotional reactions to the following relationships in your life. First one, parents, right? First one is the parents, then your romantic relationships, then children if you have children, and then friends, siblings, coworkers, things like that. And really sit with that list um, to do that. I'm not going to allow, or not allow, that sounds terrible. I don't mean allow. I'm not going to allot, is what I meant to say, time like right in this moment to do it. I'm going to give you this list for like you guys to work on so that if you come back next week, the things we're going to be doing in that, the things that you're identified here is what we're going to take into that and that next exercise and guided meditation and things like that. So, all right, emotional reactions to parents, romantic relationships, children, friends, sibling, coworkers. All right, so the second one is, do you have any of the following emotions toward any of the people above? So I'm going to give you the list of emotions, and then from when you identify the things in the first one, then you can put people's names beside it. So first one is fear. Second one is appreciation. Then there's anger. Then there's love. There's rejection. And then there's acceptance. There's judgment. Then there's support. And then she has a space for any unresolved negative feelings. And under that, there's any unexpressed positive feelings. All right, and then let's see, number 3, how do you relate to yourself? So this number 3 is about you, turning it on, turning that mirror, right? Which we all hate to do, but is so necessary, right? Turning the mirror on ourselves. All right, do you give yourself the respect, priority, and encouragement that you would like to receive from others? I'll repeat those again. Do you give yourself the respect, priority, and encouragement that you would like to receive from others? The next one is, how do you treat yourself? It's a big one, right? People are going to treat us the way they see us treating ourselves. So how are you treating yourself? The next one is, how do you perceive yourself? It's a biggie, right? I wish we could see ourselves the way other people do, right? So how we perceive ourselves is very important to how we treat ourselves. And then finally, how do you speak to yourself? Huge, right? Absolutely huge. And it's little things too, right? Little things that like I started picking up on that I was doing, that I was like, what are you doing? Like I would do something, or like I can be, because I have both. I've got a little of the autism and I've also got ADHD. So like I can be either hyper focused or really scattered. So like I'll leave to go to the store and I've got my shoes on, I've got my little thing on that has my money, but I've left my keys upstairs. And I literally say all the time, like if your head was not attached, you would probably leave it somewhere. You would probably leave it. And I used to always go, oh, stupid. Oh my God, you're so stupid. I can't believe you forgot your keys. I don't do that anymore. Why am I calling myself stupid? I'm not stupid because I forgot my keys. So it's even little things like that. How we talk to ourselves is so important. So I don't say that anymore. I'm like, oh, human. I was like, look at you, brain. I was like, all right, we're a little scattered right now. We'll pull it together, right? I've reframed it, right? I'm not stupid because I forgot my keys. I have a neurodivergent brain. Those things happen. So it's really paying attention to how you speak to yourself is so important. How you speak to yourself, how you perceive yourself, how you treat yourself shows others how they can treat you, speak to you, and what they should think about you, right? So if we are being terrible to ourselves and talking negatively to ourselves, then that just tells other people, oh, I can do that too. Okay, yeah, you're stupid. Why would you say that? Well, I hear you say that. Why can't I say that? Yeah, I think you're being really stupid. So it's being gentle with your inner vocabulary. Solomon, hello, hello. Hello, hello. Welcome. Yeah, Solomon says being gentle with your inner vocabulary. Absolutely. All right, Madeline, I will, but I'm not going to be able to go as slow as I did the first time. So I'm going to repeat number 3. Solomon in the house. Number 3 is how do we relate to ourselves? And it's, do you give yourself the respect, priority, and encouragement that you would like to receive from others? The next one is, how do you treat yourself? And then how do you perceive yourself? And then how do you speak to yourself? All right, so number 4, what do you need to change in your relationship with yourself? So what do we need to change in that relationship with ourselves? Is it the way we treat ourselves, perceive ourselves, speak to ourselves, respect or prioritize ourselves? What did we identify in number 3 that we need to change in that relationship with ourselves? What do you need to do to be more self-honoring and supportive? Biggie, right? Biggie. All right, next one, 5. What do you need to do to create relationship balance and inner and outer harmony? What do you need to create relationship balance and inner and outer harmony? All right, and our final one is going to be a list again. So for this, what you're looking at is you're considering your patterns of self-honoring in these following, wait, consider your patterns of self-honoring regarding the following choices in each relationship, including that of yourself. Okay, let me read that one more time because I messed that up the first time. Consider your patterns of self-honoring regarding the following choices in each relationship, including yourself. So the first one is self-expression. The next one is speaking your truth. Next, setting boundaries. Then reclaiming your power. Next is making reasonable requests. Then we have releasing attachment, followed by releasing judgment. Moving into engaging in compassion is next. And then the final one is acceptance of self and others. I will read it one more time. Self-expression, speak your truth, setting boundaries, reclaiming your power, making reasonable requests, releasing attachment, releasing judgment, engaging in compassion, acceptance of self and others. So there's like 1.5 pages left. I have to wrap this up. So present clues are present records. Remember, your records are not just about your past. Every single moment you are recording energy and intention in the book of your eternal life. How you treat and perceive yourself and others creates some of the most powerful and compelling energy in your records and your destiny creation. It is incumbent upon you to bring your awareness to this and every endeavor of your life. Healing these and any other unhealthy pattern is a part of your soul's directive and a large part of the purpose of the records themselves. The Akashic Records are in no way a tally of your misdeeds or misinformed choices, something you'll have to pay back item by item. They are a vibrating representation of your history, your choices, and your priorities throughout your eternal life. And they bring you endless opportunities to understand, change, heal, and grow. It is your soul's desire to change the records that don't honor you and to shift the vibrations that inhibit your genuine happiness. You can work on changing the negative records of the past, but your movement to a higher level enlightenment requires you also to bring your consciousness to your ongoing Akashic record writing process. Awaken your willingness to let go of old habits and to write beneficial new records in every present moment. Whatever your present patterns may be, every present moment offers the opportunity of choice. Choice of thought behavior, focus, priority. Let go of worry and self-criticism. Consciously record trust and present appreciation instead. Let yourself shift your negative emotions even for a little while, and you will be shifting the patterns of that hold blah. You will be shifting the patterns that your records hold, bringing light and joy to the library of your eternal life. So, the summary for this chapter that we've just read and exercises that we've done is present life investigation is a great way to get the process of record revelation going for 2 reasons. It helps to open the portal to the Akashic field, and it helps to raise your awareness of the specific issues you'd like to work on in your record investigation. Personal preferences, your profession and talents, patterns of behavior, and relationships are all potential indicators of past life experiences. Predominant emotional and cognitive patterns, such as fear and self-judgment, are strong indicators of present life lessons brought forward from the past. And then present clues reveal present records, and you can bring your power of intention to the changes you want to make now. So, big chapter, very big chapter. Ooh. Okay. So actually it is not next week. I am so sorry. I forgot. I scheduled 2 concerts. Well, I didn't schedule. I purchased tickets to 2 concerts, and they literally are back-to-back weekends, next Saturday and the following Saturday. So I will not be here next Saturday or the following Saturday, but 3 Saturdays from now. That gives you all plenty of time to work through all this stuff, which I feel like most of us need, right? Sitting down and doing all those lists is not something you do in a night. It's something you kind of need some time for. So I feel like this was divinely timed because everything is divinely timed. So the next chapter is where we're going to the records of the past revealed. So it's taking the things that have come up in your exploration from this chapter and then starting to assess them, looking at your recorded karma, past life purpose, what's etched in your records, any of those emotionally charged events, that you were able to identify the health issues, relationship patterns, karmic causes, and then working through, and then turning the tide, right? And then finding a karmic cause in your Akashic records is the guided meditation that I will be leading you on, for that. So that is where we're going. For anybody who came in late, the book that we are working through is the Akashic Records Made Easy by Sandra Anne Taylor. We are on chapter 4. If you enjoyed this space and maybe haven't been to the ones before and are interested in the previous chapters, I do have all of those recorded that are available to be. If you go to my about section on my Insight Timer teacher page and go, yes, Madeline, and go all the way down to the bottom and to where my link is, there you can find more information about me in general, and then for things that I do and where things are. I think I'm allowed to say that. So anyway, that was it. So anybody have any questions or anything like that? Because this was a lot. This was a big chapter. This is like the meat, right? This is identifying all the things and all the different areas of our life, that can give us clues as to, what is coming from past life stuff, right? What records do we really need to go back and find and look at, and rewrite? And there could be several. I've definitely, I mean, we all have a lot, right? None of us are like, oh, I have one record and I did it and now I'm great. So it's kind of looking at the different areas, figuring out which ones we need to go to first. Things come up once you get one done, and you kind of get that behind you, that takes you to a different space, and then you're able to recognize some other things. So this is an ongoing process. I'm not saying it has to be traumatic and terrible and horrible, but it can be kind of this ongoing process of you start noticing things and you're like, oh, okay, wait a minute, where could that be coming from? And then we go tap in, right? We go and tap into our Akashic Records fields, or we ask our guides for help, or we do all the things, right? Okay, where is this coming from? Okay, I've discovered so far 3, I think, past lives that have needed attention. But the fact that I keep seeing a pattern in my past lives tells me that there's probably been a lot more. But I feel like the last one that I just did, the cord that I cut from Sicily, was the doozy. That was where it all stemmed from. All the past lives after that stemmed from that one. So it feels good. Like, it feels good. uh All right, Madeline says, I'm celebrating the fact that I was awake and happened to see you live tonight. I know, Madeline, I'm so glad you were able to be here and awake and in the live, not just having to watch the replays. Mary says, very interesting, eye-opening. Thank you. Awesome. It is. It really is. You know, I remember when I first heard about the Akashic Records and I was like, what are you talking about? What do you mean there's like this book thing that like holds all the like past lives of mine or whatever? I'm like, okay, like sure, because I was thinking of it in the concrete at the time, right? I'm literally visualizing this book that's like, this thick with pages and everything like that. And it's funny is because that is how I visualize it when I actually go there, like when I have to like fulfill a contract or cut a cord and close the book or rewrite it. I literally do visualize this massive, huge book. Um, and then somebody was just talking about too, which was funny. I saw a meme and I think it was on Harry Pottering on social media. And it was talking about how, like, did Harry Potter invent the Akashic Records? Which of course he did, but it was funny because when they were, when they do in the book and they, write it and it disappears and then the messages pop up or whatever. And I was like, oh, now I'm going to start imagining the Akashic Records like that, the Akashic Records book like that. But yeah, Madeline says, for some weeks I've been singing, I'm always at the right place at the right time and it's unfolding. Absolutely. I got a song stuck in my head 2 nights ago. If it's meant to be, it'll be. I do not even listen to country music, but I know music. So I knew that song, Florida Georgia Line. And I'm like, why is a song stuck in my head? And then I'm like, duh, you don't need to overanalyze this. If it's meant to be, it'll be. Baby, just let it be, right? It was also a message I needed to send to somebody else, but I also needed to hear that myself. So yeah, it is. I know. I know. I love Insight Timer. I love these lives. I love doing these so much. I truly do. I look forward to both of them because both of the lives I do are so very different. So Wednesday nights, I do Wisdom Wednesday, where I've channeled an energy reading of what's going on right now, very short one. Then I've channeled a card for the collective. I read that, then I open it up for individual oracle card readings. Sometimes it isn't an oracle card, sometimes it's a channeled message. That's been happening now. And it's just such a different space than this. So between both of them, I love doing them. So I enjoy them. So if you don't follow me and you enjoyed the space, I would appreciate a follow. I do have a couple new tracks up. Just to preface, I didn't notice this when I was uploading it. And if you want to go back and edit it, they make you resubmit the whole track again, and I don't want to do that. But like the two most recent tracks that I did, you only see one line and it looks like there isn't more text, but there is. You just have to click on the box. For some reason, there's like a big gap in the text. So I'm going to pay more attention to that on future tracks. Because I was like, I feel like that's probably why somebody didn't like the one track that they didn't like, is because they didn't like read the full description of what it is, because it's very specific and tells you what it is. And like, if you know you're not going to like that, like it's spoken word track and then it goes into music and the purpose is to dance and move and things like that. So, but yeah, I have some tracks, I have some poems, some spoken word tracks, I have a couple guided meditations, working on a couple courses here. Um, don't know how long that's going to take, but becoming the channel and then channeling through the noise, to be determined in the future. Those are coming. And what else? I don't even know. But my birth name was Casey, but now I have fully stepped in and embraced the energy, and I now walk as Soraya, the Echo Flame. So that's why, if you've been here from the beginning and you've heard people talking about my name change on here, my teacher name has changed, and that is why. It has been quite the process, but spontaneously make up lyrics as I'm singing and keep getting snippets of music. Yeah, could that be 100%? Very much so. Very, very much so. Yes. If people lived inside my brain for like 30 minutes, they would be like somebody will say something to me and it literally launches me into a whole music spiral tirade in my head, or a movie quote spiral in my head. I'm still listening to you and talking to you, but that's going on in my head at the same time. It's wild. But yeah, you can get channeled messages many ways, many, many ways, through music, through thoughts, through birds. There was a cardinal outside of my window that was giving me a message, flowers, anything, all kinds of things. Mine normally is not words, unfortunately. I don't get this voice in my head that says, Casey, hi, this is the council. We would like you to know. Wouldn't it be so easy if it was like that? It would be so great. Because then I could just go, hey, what Akashic Records do I need to work on? Thanks. And they'd be like, here you go. But no, not that easy, unfortunately. All right, everybody. If there is no other questions or anything like that, I'm going to end the live. Like I said, I do apologize, but I do have the 2 concerts, so we won't meet again for 3 weeks. The next 2 weeks I won't be here. It's already scheduled though, the one for the 3rd week, but like I said, I really feel like, again, divine timing. Everything from this chapter is so big, and you really need to take your time with it and identify those things that this break was divinely timed right now, because you need time to sit with each of those things, because you're going to need them for the next one, because those are what we're going to, not all of them, but at least one of them is what we're going to be taking into the guided exercise where we go to the records next time. So when, yeah, Wednesdays, I'm still going to be here, Madeline. Wednesdays are fine. Yeah, I will. I'll be live my Wednesdays. I just won't be live Saturday. So Saturday, the July 12th and the 19th are the next 2 Saturdays. I will not be live those days. I will be in DC seeing one of my favorite EDM artists, Don Diablo, that Saturday. And then the 19th, I will be seeing Trevor Hall. If nobody knows who Trevor Hall is, I highly recommend him. Very, very energetically connected being of light as well, who does a lot of channeled, coded songs and messages that are very inspiring, uplifting. So amazing. Can't wait. Yeah, he does, Sammy. I saw him last year at Ocean's Calling where I live. I live in Maryland, on the coast by the beach. So he came to, we have a big 3-day music festival here that started a few years ago. He came last year, and absolutely amazing. I'm super excited. So he's going to be playing at this really small venue in Pennsylvania that's outside. So it'll be so great to sit outside in the dark under the stars listening to his music under the moon. Oh, I can't wait. I'm so excited. So thank you. I will enjoy them, and then I hope to see you all back here in week 3 to start again. Yeah, there you go. Well, if you happen to be up late, Madeline, we will gladly love you to join the live. If not, you know where. You know where. All right, everybody, if it's your night, I hope you have a good night. If it's your day, I hope you have a good day, and hope to see you again either on my Wednesdays, which are consistent every week. I don't have to cancel any of those, either at Wisdom Wednesday, that's at 7:44 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or see you back here in 3 weeks at 7:33 for Chapter 5, Akashic Records Made Easy. All right, everybody, take care. Thank you.